9:10, approaching 9:11, and we welcome into the program for the first time as Laramie Live on KOWB continues. He's in studio. It's Aaron Voos from the U.S. Forest Service. Thanks for coming in this morning. How are you today?
I'm doing well, David. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Not looking forward to the snow later today, but, you know, it's Wyoming. It's spring, and it happens.
It's to be expected.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we appreciate you coming in because there are a lot of things going on with the National Forest Service and the U.S., you know, and it affects right here in southeast Wyoming. And first, I want to start by talking about, I know we're getting snow later today, but that does not necessarily mean that the threat of the fire danger really lessens too much. I mean, it helps, obviously, Aaron, but you know, late last week there were the warnings going into a pretty breezy weekend. Explain why you guys decided to put out that warning and what we're looking at in terms of maybe, I guess, a fire season here in southeast Wyoming, if you can shed some light on that.
Sure. There's a couple different agencies that have been talking about the weather. You know, the high wind and fire warning that you're talking about was put out by the National Weather Service, the state forester. Bill Crapser, he had some comments, you know, about fire danger, especially over in the Cheyenne area. They'd been seeing some grass fires and such. And so our take on that was basically that, you know, at some of the lower elevations on the National Forest, for example, Pole Mountain between Laramie and Cheyenne, things are dry. They haven't greened up yet. The snowpack and the moisture, you know, have gone away quickly this year, and that's what's prompting everyone's concerns. And so, with that, until it gets green, you know, there's a certain aspect of fire danger, and so we're just trying to make people aware of that, and keep it at the forefront of their mind, especially if they're going to go out and camp for the first time of the season. They're anxious to get out. Want to make sure that that fire safety is at the front of their minds. Well,
and when we had some issues up in the northern part of the state this last weekend, I know, which prompted a lot of the concerns, because you look at it and you go, well, we're just into spring and we had moisture and snow in the mountains in the winter, but it is a lot drier than I think people realize, especially at the lower elevations.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, springs in this part of the country are so volatile. Sometimes you get the hot, dry, warm weather. Sometimes we get the cold and the snow. Turns out that all I have to do is come on air, with you, and it'll snow, or send out a press release like we did last week, and it snowed on that day when we sent out the press release about fire danger. So turns out all I have to do is talk about it, and we'll get a little moisture coming in. So maybe that's the new approach. But it's a reality right now. What this means for the future, for this summer, kind of remains to be seen. It depends on what we get for moisture here during April. For example, last year we were a little bit below normal heading into the spring, heading into late March and April. And then we got a bunch of storms, and it put our snowpack right up to where it should have been. We had normal, actually above average precipitation during the year last year, a lot of rain. And we ended up with, kind of a minimal fire season last year. So we'll kind of see how it all plays out. So what we're trying to do is just deal with the here and the now. Things are dry, lots of tall grass left over from last year, and we're encouraging people to be really careful about what they're doing.
From the U.S. Forest Service, Aaron Voos joins us Laramie Live on KOWB. With that, we're talking about the fire danger. There's been a lot of restrictions placed in the Pole Mountain area, which is very active between here and Cheyenne. I know there was a shooting restriction. Then there's been road closures because of some torn up terrain up there. Let's fill everybody in on the details if they haven't quite paid attention to some of those pieces.
Sure, absolutely. The Pole Mountain area is so popular, gains in popularity every year. More and more people are coming there to play and to use it for whatever their own personal choice of recreation is. And so with that, comes a lot more management focus for the Forest Service on that area. So, what we're seeing, for example, up there, some positive news with the snow coming off early. The Vidavoo Day Use area actually just opened up. That's a little bit ahead of schedule, not quite a month, but a little earlier than normal. So there actually are some recreation opportunities up there that typically aren't available this time of year. So people can get in there and use that. What we are seeing, though, is very similar to last year. With the high use in that area, we're seeing a lot of damage to roads that are wet. As snowbanks melt, for example, they run down the road. When people drive on that road, causes damage. or when they try and go around that snowbank and get out into the meadow or the field, then that causes additional resource damage. So the northern roads on Pole Mountain are closed. We're hoping that dries out quickly and that we can open those back up just as soon as possible. And then, like you mentioned, there is a shooting restriction up there. That's a seasonal shooting restriction for recreational shooting. It runs March 31st through September 10th of every year. And so that's something just purely for safety for people up there.
And that's something that has been done several years in a row now.
Absolutely. That's been going on since the late 1990s. So that's been in place for a long time, and it's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. We actually had an incident the week before the shooting restrictions went into place where a wayward bullet from a recreational shooter actually hit a vehicle up on Pole Mountain, which, nothing happened. There wasn't any, damage other than a bullet hole in a car, but, it could have been much worse. Who knows what could happen the next time, a bullet gets close to somebody in a vehicle like that. And so that's exactly what we're trying to avoid.
How much feedback, kind of pushback do you get in regards to regulations like that, that you hear from the public?
Well, sometimes if they're new and or controversial, or the public doesn't necessarily see the need for it, then we do get a lot of pushback. We get people who don't quite understand why we're putting them in place. For things like Pole Mountain, though, very little. We actually, most people understand, that, hey, if I'm up there hiking, I don't want somebody over on the other side of the hill shooting with a semi-automatic weapon. Even though that's something that, we allow on national forests, we want people to be able to enjoy. There are just too many people using Pole Mountain to be able to do that. And I think people generally accept that. Same with the roads. Everybody understands that, hey, we want to be able to drive those roads later this summer. We don't want there to be permanent damage. So if they need to be closed off for a couple weeks, I think they're typically pretty understanding of that.
9:18, Laramie Live on KOWB continues our conversation with Aaron Voos from the U.S. Forest Service in studio with us this morning. Now, there's something big that you've got going on just to our west, and I know it's around the Saratoga encampment area and maybe affect those people a little more, but folks around here get over there. What are we looking at with kind of an assessment going on over in that area, for lack of a better term?
Sure. So what David's referring to is our West Side Snowy Range travel management project. Currently, there's a proposal out there for some of the actions that we as a Forest Service are proposing to do. Basically, travel management is a hugely misunderstood word. A lot of people, hear it and they think, the federal government is shutting off my access to the national forest, and they focus on the road closures, and that can be part of what it is sometimes. There are road closures that go along with it. However, that's not the intent. We're mandated to take a look at our road system and that service that we provide to the public every so often, and make sure that it is sustainable, that it's something that we can afford to keep up, that it's safe for the public. So, for example, we take a look and are the roads being used? Are there duplicate roads that are being used to access the same area, and do we need both of those roads? Are there user-created roads that we need to get rid of that aren't authorized and aren't shouldn't be in the system and we're not maintaining? Or are there user-created roads that maybe we should consider taking into our system and making actual roads that we maintain in the future?
And where is that balance with a user-created road? Because I don't think that's something that the U.S. Forest Service really, I guess, loves or highlights necessarily, that people create their own roads, so to speak.
Yeah, but generally we don't want that to happen. We don't want people to go out there and create roads. But one good example is, for example, if there's a rancher who has a grazing permit up on forest, and they need to access a certain portion of their the area that they have the permit for, for their stock, and in order to get to that area, they've driven across this portion of land. Through this dry area every year for the last 20 years, and there's a 2-track through there. And, we're not causing any damage to the watershed. It actually is the best way to access it, and, it's not something we've thought about in the past. We might look at saying, that's actually a really good route. We don't necessarily want to take that approach in creating roads, but it makes sense. we're gonna manage that road.
All right. So with this travel management assessment, what specifically are we looking at? What type of comments are you hoping to get maybe from the public and people that might use the west side of the Snowy Range area?
Perfect. So the area that we're looking at is basically as you head over Highway 130 over onto the other side of the Snowy Range. As soon as you get up over the top and head down on the other side, that's all the area that's being managed. The western side, towards Saratoga, the Snowy Range.
Kind of Ryan Park area?
Ryan Park area,
Okay.
exactly. Or, even some of the areas in the northern Snowy Range, like the Turpin, reservoir area, or the, just some of those northernmost parts.
Okay.
And the area over towards the Platte River as you get over it in that way. And looking at about 200,000 acres, a huge variety of proposals over there, lots of trails being proposed, taking some roads that we can't maintain anymore, we're turning them into ATV trails, et cetera, et cetera. There's a certain number of roads that we're proposing to be closed. And so basically what we have out there right now is a huge list of proposals, and we want the public input on that. And so we've got a comment period open right now, 30-day comment period. People have until April 17th to give written comment to the Forest Service. And then we'll take that and, consider all those comments as we move forward through this process.
Now, you mentioned the written proposal or the written comments. Where do people submit those? Address? Is it online?
It's in all those different places. They
Okay.
can stop by our office in Laramie. They can stop by our office in Saratoga. They can go online and look at our list of projects on the website, and it's listed under there. So you can take a look at the maps and such on there. Written comments, we'll accept them via email. We'll accept letters, anything like that.
Run through the address, the website thing, just so we get all the information out to the public, so I don't leave anybody out who might not be as familiar with it.
Sure, no problem. The address for the website is fs.fed.us.
Okay.
And then /MBR. That's about as short as we can get.
fs dot
Fed, F-E-D,
okay,
dot
US,
and then /MBR.
for Medicine Bow Range.
Bow Route.
Oh, route.
Yep,
route.
yep.
Oh,
For the
Medicine
Route
Bow
National
National
Forest
Forest
just south of the border there. Yep.
All right, so MBR. All right, so fs.fed.us/MBR.
You got it.
M is in Mary, folks.
Mary Boy Rick. I guess,
Yeah, something like
is
that.
The R.
There you go.
I don't know. Anyway, and then the address, the mailing address is this is actually an easy one to remember: 2468. No, it's not a rhyme. That's the actual numbers. 2468 Jackson Street here in Laramie, 82070.
Okay. All right. Anything else before I let you go? I know you got to get on, but I don't want to leave out any information that we're missing here for folks in our audience.
One thing, actually, a tie-in between the previous topic with Pole Mountain and then this West Side Snowy Range travel management is that we're actually looking within the next year to start travel management up on Pole Mountain. So we're going to be taking a look at the road system up on Pole Mountain, and we're going to need public input on that. So just kind of a heads up to folks, to start thinking about the roads up there, specific areas. Keep this road, get rid of that road, convert this road, et cetera. Trail systems also. So, we're going to be looking for comment on that, and it's a really good tie-in.
All right. Well, Aaron, thanks so much for coming in this morning. I appreciate you filling in our listening audience here on the topics.
No problem. Happy to do it anytime.